views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we'll learn about the environmental racism that's happening in the Bronx and the effect it's having on our youth. And then afterwards, we'll sit with the Vice President of Public Affairs at FreshDirect on what initiatives they've undertaken in helping those in need to end hunger. And then we'll discuss Bank of America's Student Leaders Program that's actually connecting youth to opportunities and employment and leadership. And then also we'll talk about how the Brooklyn Rooftop Botanicals is aiming to inspire and educate customers on how to live more sustainably. And then finally, we'll speak to the founder of JSH Coaching on how she's offering lifestyle and business coaching and her new project. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open. Today is Wednesday, August the 11th, and you're watching Open, a live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV sets. We also want to thank our viewers who are watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. You can also stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV, and of course, our website at bronxnet.org. Well, a couple of things have been going on throughout the course of the past week. We'll take you through some major ones with our Bronx updates. Well, we start off with community news. Named in honor of Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz, Camp Jr. returns with the help of Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. and Assemblymember Carl Hasty, along with the Fresh Air Fund. Camp Jr. aims to provide Bronx youth an outlet to safely grow and explore. Our BronxNet reporter, Kim Laleen, brings us the story.
On June 20th, 2018, 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz fell victim to gang violence. Now the Bronx community is turning that tragedy into triumph.
We always said that we would not let Junior have been taken in vain.
Taking the steps to make a positive change in Junior's memory, elected and community leaders in collaboration with the Fresh Air Fund launched Camp Junior in 2019.
When these type of tragedies happen, we rally around the families, we show love and compassion, and then people move on with, end up moving on with their lives. But this is, I think, a better way. And if you ask Leandro, Junior's mom, I think she wants people to think more of Junior in this regard than what happened to him that night.
Camp Junior aims to provide children a safe space to grow, learn, and explore the world away from gang activity and violence.
This brings our mission at its core to ensure that our children from the Bronx, or any child to be honest, knows that they are part of a community, that people care about them, but that this is actually what is ours.
Today, groups are attending the Fresh Air Fund Family Wellness Program, but throughout the summer, families will be in these cabins and taking part in fun and engaging workshops and activities.
Camp Junior offers swimming, kayaking, lessons in archery, and many activities aimed to expose Bronx youth to different experiences while building social and emotional development skills.
A lot of the kids, they don't really know any better, so coming here is teaching other kids to learn better, and I think that's really cool.
I feel like it's really important that kids are able to get an experience that they're not used to, so they know that, the The experience that I'm having at home, it doesn't always have to be like this.
Exploring the great outdoors, mother of two campers, Tatiana Bria, says after the pandemic, she's grateful for the opportunity to experience Camp Junior.
It's kind of a dream come true because last year was really tough for the whole family. We got to the point that we thought that we never would come out anything good after the whole world was stopped because of this pandemic.
Camp Junior remains a positive and safe space for Bronx families, but mother of Junior, Leandra Feliz, wants the community to make an extra effort to ensure the children of the Bronx also feel safe at home.
What happened with Junior, I don't want to see happen again with any other kids. We need everybody comes together. We need the two hands to stop the violence outside.
With the children of the Bronx in mind, community leaders hope Camp Junior can turn Never Forget into Never Again. The Fresh Air Fund encourages all Bronx families interested in joining Camp Junior to call or visit the link below. Reporting for BronxNet, Kib and Aline.
And thank you. Also, in other news, the royal family from UAE actually visits PS 55 to see what the Green Bronx Machine students are doing and growing, as well as learning through the Summer Rising School program. Our BronxNet reporter, Darissa Wright, brings us that story right now.
The Bronx had a new visitor from the United Arab Emirates last week. Abdul Aziz coined the Green Sheik because of his views on the environment and climate change. The Sheik visited PS 55 to learn more about their National Health and Wellness Learning Center. The school is called the Green Bronx Machine, an interactive space for kids to learn about a more sustainable environment. Founder Stephen Ritz partnered with the Green Sheik in an effort to bring the teachings back to his own country.
You guys have been watching what we were doing around health, wellness, and nutrition, and also just very happy, healthy children.
The Green Sheik says he not only wants to make his own country more environmentally conscious, but he hopes to inspire the world too.
We have not just to protect, to save, but also to inspire people to take what they need, not what they want. We have to think differently than to see the world from different perspective. How we can eat, how we can live, how we can survive.
Senator Gustavo Rivera says he's proud of the Bronx and Ritz for leading the way on an initiative to make the world more sustainable.
It just again shows you that the amount of creativity and energy that Steve has is something that actually can spread around. The idea that there's places like Dubai that see the type of work that he's doing and want to kind of take it to the next level just means that then some of that energy is going to come back here, because then we can take some of the resources that are wonderful there and figure out how we can use them in places like this so that we can push these communities forward.
The Sheik says he believes his purpose is to teach people ways to care for the environment and ultimately make more cleaner choices. His message to the Bronx is,
anything you have a good habit from your parents, from your teacher, from the good people around you, even from the church, from the imam, the masjid, put them in practice. When you put them in practice, you're going to straight and avoid doing harm.
If you would like to find out more about the Green Bronx Machine or their initiatives, please visit greenbronxmachine.org. Reporting for BronxNet, Darissa White.
And thank you, Darissa. And that's all the time we have for our Bronx updates, but that's not it. We've got more show. Stay with us. Open continues coming up right after this break. Welcome back. Environmental racism continues to be a pressing issue in our Bronx community. And recently, the think tank at the Thinkubator released a policy brief on the environmental racism issues right here in the borough, exploring the environmental inequities existing amongst the community. Joining us now to share a little bit more details is the Thinkubator's president and CEO, Dr. Edward Summers. And then we're also joined by the director of the think tank, Dr. Lessie Branch. And both of you, thanks for joining us. And I'll start off with Dr. Branch. And Dr. Branch, share with us a little bit about this, because when we talk about environmental injustice, we can definitely see, with the Bronx being number 62 on the health chart across the borough, that a lot of that comes really from environmental injustice.
So again, thank you for having us, Daren. It's a pleasure to be with you. And again, most of what we do, even in terms of the policy briefs that we publish, are driven by youth voices. And as you know, the Thinkubator is an organization that lifts up youth and gives them a platform to create the agenda, to work with organizations to help solve problems, and to even engage in the civic space. And so the brief really, again, is driven by issues that the Bronx youth at the Thinkubator want to highlight. So, you know, they put together a survey. Actually, Julian Joyner put together a survey, administered it, and I can't say we were surprised by the results. I mean, we have known for the last 40 some odd years, and possibly even longer than that, the intentional destruction, if you will, of Bronx infrastructure that results in a lot of the things that we are seeing today in terms of health outcomes. And, you know, to your point, the Bronx is number 62 out of all 62 counties in the state of New York when it comes to health outcomes.
Yeah. And so, Dr. Summers, share with us a little bit about the brief and what you were able to uncover.
Sure, thanks, Daren. And again, I echo the sentiment of my colleague, Dr. Branch. We appreciate being here. So with the brief, we surveyed, we have two data sets with this particular brief. We've surveyed New York City population, and then we have a much smaller data set of Bronxites of the data set that we looked at. And when we looked at knowledge about environmental pollution, environmental injustice, and racism, you know, most people didn't really know, and I think part of it is they didn't really understand the terms. But when we looked at the data a little closer, people knew that in the Bronx particularly, that things like pollution, things like asthma, things like noise, things like having a large concentration of diesel trucks in the Bronx, they knew those things, right? They knew that those things existed. So by default, they know about environmental racism, but may not know the terminology. And so what a lot of people said was that these things happen in the Bronx, right? You know, they acknowledged the high rates of asthma in the Bronx among young people. They acknowledged the noise. They acknowledged the air not being at the same quality as other communities. What the survey did was it actually looked at, all right, we know, we kind of knew this stuff already, but let's look at what should we be thinking about? How do we deal with these challenges that we have in the Bronx? For years, we already know that it's been documented that there's been environmental pollution, and as you both indicated, you know, we're at number 62 in terms of outcomes, the last borough, the last county in the state. So a lot of what the survey looked at was, what can we do and what should we be thinking about in terms of righting the wrongs of the environmental injustices that happen in the Bronx. So the think tank team and the young people, based on the recommendations of the people we surveyed, came up with 4 major recommendations. One being making sure that we incorporate youth as we think about the challenges that we have with environmental pollution and environmental racism. So how do we incorporate youth feedback in this process? Too often, it's the policy wonks out there making the decisions. So there's adults, and we don't include the young people in our decision-making process. So how do we get their feedback? How do we think about a youth-led, a youth-driven environmental justice policy framework in the Bronx? 2, it's looking at green jobs. How do we think about, as we move forward and as we support development in the Bronx, what are some of those green jobs? What are some of those development projects that the county supports, that the Bronx Borough president supports, that the city supports, and how do we make sure that these are green jobs, and how do we train and prepare people for these green jobs? Another aspect is in looking at our planning in general is to make sure that we are reimagining our planning and making sure that as we support buildings, that they're green-led buildings, they're LEED certified buildings, right? So making sure that in our planning process that we think about a more just base planning process. And then I would say our last one is about green energy for low-income housing, right? And NYCHA type of housing. How do we support, as we think about the assets that we have in our community, which is a plethora of low-income NYCHA housing, how do we incorporate green energy technologies into those developments to make sure that we have a more environmentally friendly infrastructure in the Bronx? So those are some of the recommendations that came out of this brief. And I think it's always important to think about the first one I mentioned, which is how do we incorporate young people in the process? How do we get them in the process, thinking creatively about some of these challenges that we have? Thinkubator has something amazing called the Thinkubator Solves program, where young people actually tackle issues that exist in the borough and exist for companies and exist in the public sector. And so this is just a great opportunity to really engage young people, get them thinking creatively, get them thinking without any walls, quite frankly, and to allow them to really go ham in terms of really just going and really thinking creatively about how to solve some of the challenges. So that's a major part of what we got out of it. We'd love to hear my colleague, Dr. Branch, as well.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to Dr. Branch about climate change, right? We talk about climate change, particularly with environmental injustice, environmental racism. What's the role of climate change in all of this?
So it's very, we can implicate it for sure, right? And to the folks who still think that climate change is a hoax, look at what's happening in California, look at what's happening on the west coast of Canada. And so something that I looked at earlier this week, it was a phrase that Daren Walker from the president of Ford Foundation, he said, he pretty much talked about the whole situation that we are in, just in terms of inequity in general. It's like we're eating lobster on the Titanic, right? And so if we don't all get on board and speak with one mind and have unified action, we're all going to go down with the sinking ship. And so I think that's really a call to action, number one, whether you believe climate change is real or not. And so it's really apropos to failing to recognize the origins or even the underpinnings, if you will. And we're all going to end up under the sea if we don't do something about it, not necessarily because we're on a sinking ship, but because sea levels are rising, polar ice caps are melting. And then just from a political perspective, or just, think about what happens if the earth becomes inhabitable. Where do we go, right? Because there's no other planet that we can all just pack up and go to. And then just think about the implications of environmental racism for the Bronx. As it becomes more and more unsustainable, the climate, if we fail to act, we politically end up losing, if you will, representation, because if the borough becomes so inhabitable to the point that people move out, then we lose seats in Congress, and then that makes our uphill fight and battle to reverse some of these things that we're experiencing that much harder, because we don't have the representation that we need. And so that's sort of the frame that I'm bringing to it, and why the electeds that we presently have definitely need to make this a priority if they want to continue to have the privilege of leading the borough.
Yeah, Dr. Leslie Branch, Dr. Edward Summers, thank you so much for coming and sharing with me.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you. Well, listen, now, if you want more information, please visit the website at thethinkubator.org, and then also follow them on their social media platform at The Thinkubator. We do have more Open coming up. We encourage you to stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Open returns right after this.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back. FreshDirect is a leading online fresh food grocer delivering directly to customers throughout New York. Our next guest recently received the prestigious Outstanding Alumni Brother of the Year Award from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated for his contributions with FreshDirect throughout the pandemic. Joining us to share a little bit more about that is the Vice President of Public Affairs at FreshDirect, Larry Scott Blackman. And Larry, good to have you. And again, congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It's an honor to have been the recipient of this award, and thank you so much for the compliments.
Well, I mean, let's talk for a minute, because when we talk about FreshDirect, obviously a lot of great work is going on in terms of just not being a food service provider, but also being able to be that huge provider during the time of this pandemic. And so as you look back and as we see we're trying to still make it through, talk a little bit about FreshDirect's work, particularly in the pandemic.
So during the pandemic, FreshDirect was a source of relief for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of individuals throughout all of the areas that we served. We had been approached by the city of New York with a task of helping out. Due to COVID-19, the city was looking at closing many of its congregate settings, and those individuals still needed to receive food. They relied on those congregate settings for meals. And so we put our brains together and tried to come up with various plans and ideas of what we could do. And we worked with New York Common Pantry, which is a great organization based in East Harlem and had also Bronx location. So we worked with them. And then we developed what we called the 5 Borough Food Program, feeding program, where we partnered with the 5 borough presidents, worked with their office to distribute hundreds of thousands of boxes of fresh produce and food to individuals who needed it most. And so throughout the pandemic, we delivered those boxes. We did so obviously to make sure that our employees were safe, that the people receiving the boxes were safe as best as we could. And it worked. And so for that and for many other reasons, I was bestowed with this honor.
So how did it feel? I mean, actually to have the Brotherhood say to you, listen, we know we're going to honor you for your work, and just what does it mean to come from your brothers?
It is a surreal experience. I am still living in a cloud. It's very hard to talk about yourself. And I try not to do that. We're sort of challenged to make sure that we do not incorporate the letter I as much as possible. So this is a collective victory for the many people that worked together to make all of the things happen outside of food, the charitable events that we held, the Zoom events, the conversations with individuals running for office, and so much more. The bicycle challenge, making sure that I jokingly refer to the indoor 5, the 5 pounds that you put on because we were not able to really go outside for about a year. So we put together, health initiatives to make sure that people could come outside and ride their bike. We did a bicycling challenge, and we did so much new and innovative and out of the box programming for people. So to be recognized for that is definitely an honor.
Yeah. And not just with FreshDirect, also your fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, has a lot of great history in terms of doing community service.
Absolutely. So Alpha Phi Alpha is the first Black Greek letter organization founded in America. It was founded at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York on December 4th, 1906. And we pride ourselves on manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind. And so we do that through a number of our national programs that we implement. And the brothers of our fraternity run the gamut. They are everything, individuals at in schools, you name it, graphic designers, artists, some singers, musicians. And so in every way possible, members of this great fraternity give back to their neighborhoods and to their community. So it is an honor to be a member of the fraternity. And we look forward to doing even bigger and better things beyond where we are right now.
Yeah, share with us a little bit about where we are. I mean, when we talk about where we are right now, we know that we're dealing with the Delta variant. We thought that maybe we could see COVID really out the door, but we know that not before dealing with this Delta variant. Mayor Bill de Blasio says you got to wear masks when you go to restaurants, fitness places. How does this change the work that you guys have done, given the fact that we thought that we'd probably be a little bit better than where we are right now?
So just as, you know, and this is, you know, the way I look at it, right? Just as COVID has changed and there's a new variant, I think community-based organizations and leaders at companies need to have variants of engagement as well. We need to adopt and change with the variants that are impacting our community. So what does that mean? Well, yes, there's always a focus on giving and a focus on food, and we're preparing for that. We're gearing up for Thanksgiving. We're looking at all these other opportunities, but we also know that we still need to talk to the individuals who are not vaccinated, the individuals who are looking at various issues that have plagued communities of color particularly, and have put up, you know, a resistance to vaccination. At FreshDirect, what we just did most recently is that we partnered with the New York City Department of Health, and we brought in a vaccination team to provide vaccinations for the employees and also for the community. And that was very successful. And just think about it, if we had not have done that, there would have been a segment of the population who would not have been vaccinated. So I say that to say that it is incumbent upon community-based organizations to assist with this effort to ensure that the members of your organization are vaccinated, but that you go out. And then the next thing and say, and I'll close on this particular piece by saying that there's also an economic impact that we're still feeling as a result of COVID. One of the things that we did in Alpha Phi Alpha is we created a COVID emergency relief fund where brothers could donate money to this fund that would then be donated to individuals and brothers who lost their job or were facing issues paying their rent or other economic hardships. So it's incumbent to have leadership that thinks outside of the box, that understands the current needs of individuals, particularly as we face this new unknown with this Delta variant.
Yeah. And so for you, obviously, a lot of work going into this COVID, you know, into the COVID season. And really trying to make sure that people are being taken care of. And then on the fraternity side, of course, trying to really make sure that people are not forgotten as well. When you look back and you see all of the thousands and literally millions of dollars that's been pretty much given away in food to really be a blessing to people, what's the message that you'd like to send to others about really playing their part in giving back and helping and assisting during these troubled times?
Well, the message that I would send is not to assume that the need has waned. There is still a need out there. There are prideful people who will not tell you that they are in need, but they will show up on the line and you'll be surprised. Just the other day, we did a community service event in Harlem at Sylvia's, and where they were celebrating their 59th anniversary of being a part of the community. And we were doing a food distribution there. And you should have seen the line. The need is still there. So any way that you as a viewer of BronxNet can contribute in any fashion, whether it be 5 cents or $500 to a community-based organization, or just donating your time, it is still needed.
Yeah. Larry Scott Blackman, thank you so much for being with us here again on Open. And again, congratulations. And please tell people a little bit more about how they can get connected with FreshDirect.
Well, thank you for having me. And you can connect with FreshDirect by visiting us at freshdirect.com. We are doing great as a company and looking forward to continued community engagement. FreshDirect.com. You can visit us at publicaffairs@freshdirect.com via email. Happy to serve you, happy to work with you if we can. And we thank you, BronxNet, and thank you, Daren, for always being so accommodating.
Hey, our pleasure. Larry Scott Blackman, our guest. And again, congratulations on the award and the work that you continue to do with FreshDirect.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, we want you to stay with us because guess what? We've got more open coming up. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Bank of America recently announced 4 New York City high school graduates were selected as 2021 student leaders. For 18 consecutive years, student leaders underscores the bank's ongoing commitment to connecting young people to jobs, as well as skills building and development opportunities to strengthen our community. Joining us and sharing some more details about this is the 2021 Bank of America student leader, Kaylah Frazier, Community Relations Manager at Bank of America, Gail Harvey, and then Director of College and Career Programs at the YMCA of Greater New York, Jason Wolfe. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to have you. And thank you. And Gail, Jason, I'll start off with you. A wonderful partnership. We've had you on before, but talk to us about how you really are working to really create an opportunity for young people to have that employment experience and also some career building as well.
Well, I'll start. First of all, the YMCA is happy to be a proud partner with Bank of America. I think this partnership is going on at least 15 plus years with Bank of America, and we're proud of that partnership. And of course, working with the student leaders who work with us during the summer in terms of an internship. And what we're trying to do is provide them a leadership experience where they can dive in to the YMCA and get a great look at what we do day to day, as well as what we do from year to year. So those experiences include research projects that we have them do. They've actually gone out to visit some of our offsites as well as our branches to see what's happening there. And these young people like Kaylah are doing a great job with that. And we're happy to offer that opportunity and continue our partnership with Bank of America.
Yeah. And Gail, for you, a little bit about the Bank of America experience. Once these students come to you, they become acquainted with the world of Bank of America.
Absolutely. We've been running this program for, as you said, 18 years. And we keep in touch with a number of our student leaders over the year. We go back all the way to 2004. We have reunions for them. We hope to bring them back and have current student leaders learning from prior student leaders, how their experiences shape them. You know, we have a strong commitment at Bank of America to, you know, driving economic opportunity in our communities. And that starts with, you know, investing in our young people in summer jobs, summer experiences, skill building. We're working with people like the Y, like Jason, to offer them school year opportunities as well as summer opportunities, so that, you know, when we have our former student leaders come back, they can really add a lot of value to our current student leaders' future prospects.
Yeah. Kaylah, your opportunity with Bank of America is certainly a great experience. Talk to us about what you were able to learn and what it was like for you.
Being a part of the Bank of America Student Leader Program has actually granted me the opportunity to be acclimated with my greater community. So as a student leader, I was able to participate in a summit where I was able to look at the connection between business, not-for-profits, and the government, and just how they work together to solve problems. And even though we weren't able to attend in person unfortunately because of COVID, it was so inclusive and informational, specifically the prison reform session. It tapped into my interest in the education to prison pipeline and just the injustices within prison. And we were even able to send a care package to Save the Children, which is, like its name, an organization that has been saving the children, saving children's lives for over 100 years. And it was just great because I'm a hands-on learner. And even though the summit was virtual, that activity allowed me to, have a hands-on assignment that I knew was making change. And even though I do have specific interests, like I said previously, I love making change within communities. And interning at the Y has allowed me to do that. I don't know if you know, but the Y has a strategic plan that builds on the Y's strengths, affirming and deepening their work in 3 core areas. And those areas are empowering youth, improving health, and just strengthening the community. And so far, I have had the opportunity to strengthen the community. I have delivered helmets to students with a love for cycling, contacted senior homes and childcare centers, telling them about the new Y that opened in the area, and just gave New Yorkers a sense of belonging. And just the Y has, like I said, allowed me to be acclimated to the greater community. And just being a part of this process has just been an eye-opener and just so amazing.
Jason, I know you gotta be proud. I mean, obviously that's the job. You want to be able to connect young people with opportunities. And when you hear Kaylah's work and you hear her testimony, I mean, obviously you have to say, listen, this definitely is bearing fruit.
Nah, for sure. I mean, Kaylah, she's kind of underselling all the things they've done and contributed to the Y this summer. You know, she slipped in there about the bike helmet initiative we had going out at the Bedford-Stuyvesant YMCA. Her and her teammates at Bank of America delivered those helmets on time and for those young people in terms of safety in riding bikes. So she delivered some helmets to those young people, and they were able to utilize those things and have fun and begin their bike riding experience. She talked about her outreach in terms of her research. One project she's working on is outreaching to our 12th grade seniors who recently graduated. So she's doing a wellness check, calling, emailing those 12th grade seniors, checking in to see what their post-secondary plans are for September. And I think being a relatable teenager and college-going young person herself, she can relate to those teens who are heading out to college. So she's a great communicator with that. And I also had to work on a project on the history of African-American YMCAs in America. So I put her on a research project to research the YMCA's contribution to African-Americans and those African-American YMCAs that started in the early 1900s. So she had a research project there that she worked on. So as you're saying, Daren, she's doing a lot, learning a lot. And again, it's helping the YMCA, it's helping her, as well as her teammates on Bank of America. So it's just not Kaylah, it's her other colleagues she's working with who are part of the program, who are really like, as we say, getting in the weeds and really trying to figure out what the YMCA does and giving back at the same time. So great stuff.
And Gail, for you, obviously, this is a transformative time in people's lives. The ability to actually have an internship and have that kind of experience. From your work and what you've seen, talk to us about the impact that it actually makes in a young person's trajectory.
I think it's uncalculable to say what it actually does for them. One of the reasons why is such a great partner for us in this program is they really do offer, as Jason was explaining, a really substantial internship. This is not a program where they're going up and picking up towels around a pool. They're getting into and understanding how these organizations work, and they're getting not just a view of their communities, but they're getting a sense of how an organization runs, the dynamics internally, and it's giving them sort of a leg up on a lot of their colleagues to see how internal politics work in an organization, how things get done, how people collaborate, how nobody can really do it alone, that everybody really does need to work together, and how to ask for help when they do need that. So I just think the kind of the skills that they're learning in that day to day, most of us, at least in my generation, we kind of came out and we went into a job, and those are things we had to learn at the beginning. And I think this internship, because it is so robust, really affords them an opportunity to understand that in advance, and it prepares them for success in a way that I think a lot of internships don't.
Yeah. Well, Kaylah, once again, congratulations. We're very proud of all the work that you're doing. Jason, of course, and Gail, glad to have you back again. Another successful story, another successful partnership. And it's good to see our young people really hitting the streets, and, well, not hitting the streets because we're virtual, but I mean, getting out there and really getting into the weeds, as Jason says. Thanks much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for having us.
Thanks, Daren. Appreciate you.
Oh, appreciate you too. Now, I want people to know now, if you want more information, what you could do, visit the website, bankofamerica.com. /student leaders. And then also visit them on social media at Bank of America. And then also at YMCA NYC. Want you to stay with us. We got more show coming up. Open continues coming up in a few.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
And welcome back. When people usually think of gardening, they often think about a sizable outdoor space set aside in the backyard. Well, that's not always possible. Our next guest is looking to change that perception, specifically when it comes to lifestyle as well as beauty. Brooklyn Rooftop Botanicals is a rooftop beauty farm that spans over 3 rooftops and growing beauty botanical extracts to create products out of. Joining us to share more details is the CEO and founder of Brooklyn's Rooftop Botanicals, Liana Blomquist. And Liana, good to have you.
Thank you very much, Daren. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, so talk to me about this here, because as we say, we talk about, outdoor gardening, people have a certain kind of perception, but you got something different with Brooklyn Rooftops.
This is the first rooftop beauty farm in New York that does span 3 different rooftops, but I have my original rooftop here in Williamsburg. There's also one very close by. That's the 3rd rooftop that I've established. And then there's also one in downtown Brooklyn. So there are 3 rooftops that span around 2,000 square feet in total. And what's so special about this is definitely that I am growing lots and lots of beauty botanicals, over 40 different ones, to basically create extractions and create beauty products out of. I do have a main crop that I grow to create the bulk of the extractions, but then I have some other botanicals that are a little bit more obscure to then test and learn with and try and see what I can kind of create out of them.
You got a great outdoor space. You're converting it now. It's going towards beauty botanicals, but it's not always the most common place on a rooftop.
No, it isn't. And I am so incredibly lucky to have this space, my own space. I definitely, with the pandemic last year, it was actually completely crazy to have this space and be able to come outside. And it's definitely, if you have space, great. But if you don't, it's also, I think people just have to understand that you can really create a garden no matter what. You don't necessarily have to have a very large outdoor space. You can have a tiny little windowsill as well. So I think, people have to think differently when it comes to gardening and not necessarily thinking about it as so much of a space perspective. But it's definitely been, very, very great to have this space and expanding into my different rooftops. So yeah.
And recently you just got a certification in horticulture.
So I am not completed yet. I have one more class, but yes, I'm going to complete it this year. It just depends on getting that one last class. Just so much going on, obviously, with growing these botanicals, being on the different rooftops, and trying to expand out into my future adventures. But yes, it's been an amazing experience doing this certificate. Obviously my background was in beauty and global marketing and product development. So changing my whole career to become essentially an urban rooftop farmer, I kind of understood I had to get, some additional skills and a different certification to really give me an edge. So
for yourself, share with me a little bit about this perspective here, because you're talking about an urban market, you're talking about New York City. And when you're on the outside New York City, you're dealing a lot with weather. How difficult is a growing season, given the fact the kind of weather that we see across New York City?
Yeah, it is very difficult just because we have this heat island effect happening in New York City. So everything, the heat that happens here and the temperatures that happen here is sometimes 10 degrees more than what you see in the outskirts of New York City, in Long Island and in the upper New York boroughs. So, it's very difficult to grow up here because you have to take the heat into consideration. You have to also take wind into consideration. You have to take, obviously, your growing mediums into consideration and the different plants that can survive up here. You have to really think about all the different factors. And again, not every season's the same. Just as a typical example, last year in the spring and summer, it was a lot drier than what it was this year. This year, it was kind of hot, cold, and humid all throughout. So, it's interesting to see how the plants from last year, how they grew this year, how different it was as an experience. But it's always about kind of understanding your environment and kind of, taking your learnings and kind of adapting to what's going on. So it's very tricky. You have to really pay attention and really understand the different plants and their needs to make sure that you're adapting them to that specific environment appropriately.
We might have somebody out there watching saying, listen, the season is getting ready to change. Things are changing over. What kind of tips would you offer for those persons who are trying to deal with this season as it begins to shift and transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people forget that there isn't just the spring and the summer growing season. You also have the fall growing season in New York City. So right now is actually the time to start prepping for the fall growing season. So looking at what you currently have, what you're currently growing, and making sure that you're harvesting all your flowers, your seeds, whatever's left in terms of fruits, your stems. Also, any cuttings for propagation. Actually, now is really the time to do so. And then you need to make sure that you're also cleaning up your soil, making sure you're getting rid of diseased materials, and also soil amending. So after the first growing season, you have your soil that has been depleted from a lot of its nutrients and the pH might be off. So it's really this good time to test your soil and to make sure you're amending it so the future crops can do very well. And then you also have to obviously start your seeds. So really right now is the time to start growing your indoor seeds so that you can then plant them out as the temperatures start cooling down in the next couple of weeks.
And talk to me about what you're doing right now. I mean, obviously, I hate to say it, but we're getting closer towards the end of summer. You don't want to enjoy it for as long as we possibly can, but share with me about where you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is harvesting the rest of my beauty botanicals. I still have a lot of things that I'm harvesting for, what I'm trying to kind of create going forward. And I'm doing exactly what we just talked about. So I'm really kind of getting all my seeds, propagating any beauty botanicals that I want to grow more of in the future. Definitely getting some seeds, checking my soil, making sure it's clean, making sure it has all the proper nutrition. And I'm really, getting prepped for more growing of beauty botanicals. I have my large harvest that successfully grew this spring and summer. So now let's continue going for the fall.
Yeah. Before we go really quickly, how can people see your work?
So I'm all over Instagram. I'm all over TikTok. I have 6,000 followers on Instagram and 16 on TikTok. I also have my website, brooklynrooftopbotanicals.com, where I post tons and tons of content on how to grow and how to also formulate some of your own products using beauty botanicals or even synthetics. So you can definitely visit me there.
Well, we want to let you know that we're out of time for this segment, but certainly some great work. Got to remind our viewers to make sure that they see you on Instagram as well as TikTok and see the great work this Brooklyn Beauty Botanicals is doing. Thanks much.
Thank you so much, Daren.
All righty. Well, listen, I need our viewers to stay with us. We got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open is going to continue coming up right after this. And we're back. JSH Coaching is a company that's offering both individual and group business consulting, leadership, and life coaching. Our next guest has created space for leaders, creating a safe and encouraging environment where they can actually gain confidence, overcome emotional uncertainties, and master business as well as professional challenges and personal challenges, I should say. Well, here to share more is the founder of JSH Coaching, Jennifer Heslop. And Jennifer, good to have you.
Nice to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. And I guess when we talk about coaching, particularly in a pandemic and with all that's going on and in the face of uncertainty, some coaching is really necessary. Give us a little bit about your work right now.
It's definitely changed a little bit. COVID definitely has impacted a lot of our mental, emotional health, and as well our pursuits. I think when you have something like COVID happening, you start to question everything. And so it's become a little different in terms of that, a little bit more challenging, because a lot of people are now using this opportunity to leave careers and are now using their expertise to coach other people. So the playing field has a lot of players on it right now, but I do think my service is a little bit unique in the sense that I'm a holistic coach, which means that I take in all aspects of my clients' lives, including their personal life, their health, mental health, their personal health. So my title is Leadership Life Coach because of that holistic perspective. I'm also an empath, which sounds really earthy, crunchy, and corny, but that just means that just means that I have the ability to kind of sense people's energies as well and see where they are. And so that is a perspective that I think is very powerful in terms of my coaching specifically. So yeah, it's what it is right now. You know, you kind of have to accept things the way they are right now.
Well, we are in some very challenging times. I mean, right now, a lot of people do need to really talk it through and work it through. What have been some of your conversations with people, given the fact that you got the work at home, you've got people who are worried about getting back to work, you got other people who are dealing with unemployment, and other people really trying to maintain their business and in an environment where the economy has not been too friendly?
Yeah. I mean, my coaching now is more about resilience. I think we could never have imagined this. I feel so old saying it. I'm like, in my generation, we saw COVID. But the truth is, in this time, this thing we couldn't have imagined has happened, impacted us worldwide in such a powerful way. So it's about resilience to me now. This is what I'm pushing and promoting and trying to support my clients with. It's how do you not only pivot, because I think when COVID first started, we were talking about people pivoting their careers and coming up with new ways to market themselves and sell themselves, become a product, have a different service. Now it's about resilience. It's this idea of having a sense of flexibility, understanding where you are in the scheme of things, and that's having to do with self-awareness, knowing what your challenges are and how to become a little bit more prepared, not for another pandemic, but this was an opportunity for us to really look at what we need to move forward. Do we need to elevate our skill set? Do we need to get a little bit more education? Do we really need to be pursuing the goals that we've always had? COVID was a real life, kind of like life or death situation. And when those happen, we look at our lives and go, well, what the heck am I waiting for? So that's what I support my clients with. I'm like, okay, come on. We're still alive, thank you, God, because my motto is until it's over, it ain't over. And ain't nobody telling me it's over until I decide it's over. But it's about, let's get a plan going, and at least let's just incrementally keep moving forward towards your goals.
And I know one of the things that you like to do is encourage your clients to journal and the power of journaling. Talk about the significance and share with us what significance and power is there when a person begins to journal?
Remember when we were kids and a lot of us had diaries? I think it's just first the ability to write down your thoughts. I am a person who tends to internalize and I don't share a lot. when I'm going through stuff, and writing down what's happening to me, and also what my goals are and the tasks and the steps that I need to take to accomplish those goals become real for me when I'm writing it down. It's also about creating a habit, right? They say, what, 21 days? It's actually, you can see 21 days to 6 months to create a new habit, but allowing yourself space somehow to write down what you're feeling. And again, for me, it's about task building. You know, when we're working, a lot of the people that I coach are entrepreneurs. When you're working for another company or you have an employer, you kind of are given a task list. You know what you have to pursue. When you're on your own trying to figure it out, a lot of things are on your plate. And so I believe in writing things down and just kind of taking away at it, and also being honest about how I'm feeling about what it is I'm trying to pursue and how to get there.
Yeah. And so for people who want to get connected to the work that you do, how do they go about doing that?
You can go to my website, which is jenniferheslop.com. That's HESLOP.com. On there, you find out a little bit more about me. You see my client testimonials. You'll also see my the ability to shop for my book, my planner, which I have here. And you also find out more about what workshops I hold.
Yeah, and I know you talked about, you lifted up the book, but tell our viewers a little bit about what's in the book.
Okay, so it's called Damn It, I Don't Want to, the No Bull, can I curse? The No BS Organizational Planner You Need. And I was inspired to write this book because it was something that I created for myself initially. When you're talking about, you know, writing things down and journaling, for me, this was a way of really being honest with my I want to do, don't want to do, have to do, and should do. So I created this unique process for myself of kind of like shuffling things around constantly. So I have to deal with what's on my plate. A lot of us spend a lot of time avoiding things that we have to do, mostly I think out of fear as well. But I was tired doing that. It was becoming detrimental to me. And just in terms of maturing and trying to figure out this life thing and how to do it better, I decided to offer it to other people as a guide and support and accountability tool, so that you say what you want to do, you write down what you want to do, you deal with how you're feeling about it, and then you force yourself to come around. It never comes off the page. You have to deal with this thing that you keep avoiding.
Well, great opportunity for some advice there and really to help people through. Jennifer, glad to have you here on the show, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All righty. Jennifer Heslop, our guest here on Open. Now, for more information, you can visit her website, jenniferheslop.com. And then, of course, follow her on Facebook at Jennifer Heslop. Well, we've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Cablecast, which comes on Optimum's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, that's Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. We also want to thank our viewers for who've been watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. And if you want a brand new episode, come back on Friday. My girl, Rena Valentine, she concentrates on arts and entertainment. You'll get a brand new episode from her. And then also tune in next week, and we'll get you another one right here on Wednesday Open. I am Daren Jaime. Make sure you keep this channel wide open. I'm saying take care, God bless, and we'll see you soon.